Hey guys, Jack Spirko, episode 10 of Jack's Low Carb Journey, and this is day 31. Day 31, since checking in with you yesterday, lost 4/10 of a pound, just under half of a pound. That small amount can be water retention, lost, or whatever, but I'll take it because I weigh myself every day and been doing it for 31 days, so it's probably legit. And looking at the pattern, that means that tomorrow or the next day, I'll probably weigh in around 227.0. What's the big deal about that? That'll be 20 pounds. That'll be 20 pounds, and it'll probably happen on day 32 or 33. 33 days and 20 pounds. That's about as fast as you really want to lose weight, especially considering you had the big surge in the first 5 to 7 days with keto. You always get that. A lot of that's water weight, but the sustained weight loss here of around 3 pounds a week after that is pretty solid. About 4.5 pounds per week across the total average. That's about as fast as you want to go. The truth is, if you go much now, if you're really, really heavy, you may just naturally go faster than that. But if you go much faster than that, you're going to have a real time, even on a keto diet, lots of fat, really good quality protein, low sugar, you're going to have some issues with skin. If you're significantly overweight, you go at about that speed and you do it with keto, you should have very little of like hanging skin and stuff like that. Unless if you are excessively obese, if you should weigh like 200 pounds or 180 pounds and you weigh 400 pounds, it may take years, or you may have to use a surgical alternative at that point. But for people that are 50 pounds overweight, you can do it with very little hanging skin on keto. That's just something that I've learned from quite a few people that have been doing this a long time and counseling people for a long time. Dr. Eric Berg says that, and Eric Berg is one of those guys that like 75% of the time the guy's talking, I think he's a genius, and 25% of the time he's talking, I'm like, what are you, like, that's just not true. That's not a thing. But, so with all people that consider themselves experts, please take a grain of salt with anything they say, and, don't trust anybody, don't even trust me, always check for what is actually known as scientific fact when it comes to anything about health, nutrition, your body, science, etc. Ken Berry, though, who I found almost nothing I completely disagree with that he said, especially when understood in the full context, says the same thing, and several others as well. So just a little tip there. What I want to talk to you about today is something that I keep getting a lot of questions about, various forms of what has been dubbed keto flu. And I want to kind of break that down into 3 separate areas that I think is getting lumped into one. So I want to start out with what classic keto flu is all about. And I'll tell you, I have not had the first 2. I've had 0. It's the third one that I want to talk about today that I've had some specific examples of. So, by the way, I'm looking at myself right now and I see my eye, and some of you have asked questions about my eyes. I am freaking, for all intents and purposes, blind in one eye. So you just deal with this when you watch my videos. It's not about me looking way over there or something. Anyway, so classic keto flu is what a lot of people go through, and it's what has a lot of people just jump out of any type of low carb diet that puts you in a state of ketosis. Whether it's what we consider like modern healthy ketosis now, or Atkins style ketosis with more protein. Like, this is where people feel sick. They feel like depressed, they feel cloudy, they might feel nauseous, they might break out in a rash, they just feel like shit in general. They feel like they have the flu. What that is, and it doesn't happen to everybody, this concept that it happens to everybody is just not true. Some people are really predisposed to live on this kind of a diet, and the people that are probably the ones that have the biggest weight gain problem when they don't, people like me. And whether you think there's anything to it or not, I do believe, I can't prove it, but I do believe there's something to blood types and matching up with body types and diet types. And if you're an O, number one, give blood, because you give the gift of life and you can go to anybody if you're O positive. But you probably have a real predisposition to this, and you may have a much less likelihood of that initial just total shit feeling. All that is you've been running your body on glucose and fructose as primary fuel sources forever, And now you're saying, hey, guess what? All you get is protein and fat. And you got to convert the protein body. You got to do something. Like you can use it for muscle and structure like we talked about yesterday, but you can't just burn it as fuel. You got to do something with it. You got to put energy into this, and you can use the fat as ketones, but you're not used to that. So get on with it. And your body's like, shit, I got to deal with this. And the human body is designed to go in and out of this state rapidly. Through like spring, the berries come, we forage, just hunter-gatherers, we ate the hell out of it, and then all of a sudden it was gone. So we were designed with that. But when we lived for years and years and years, eating more sugar than our bodies were ever intended to eat, even if you think you're low sugar, even if you're just eating grains and you're eating the standard American recommended diet without the Captain Crunch and the ho-hos, you still are living on massive amounts of sugar. A potato is sugar. I don't care what anybody says, a potato is sugar. And again, if you give me 1,000 grams of carbohydrate in the form of potatoes, or 1,000 grams of carbohydrate in the form of cane sugar, and I put it through a fermentation process and distill it to alcohol, I will get the same amount of alcohol out of it, because they're both sugar, okay? So your body it's just like changing fuel types in a vehicle, and sometimes when you get that first summer gas or winter gas, your vehicle kind of like stalls, spuds, whatever. It has to like get used to this new fuel. It doesn't have to do it biologically, but maybe it's really warm when they put that winter fuel mix in, right? Or really cold when they put the spring mix in, and your car just kind of hiccups. It's an analogy. Don't look for it to be direct. That's kind of what your body says. It's kind of a reboot, and that's just going to happen. And all you can do with that, you can do some things with supplementation and stuff like that, but in the end, your body just has to get through that. Second thing. The second form of keto flu, and again, this all gets lumped in like it's one thing, is straight up addiction withdrawal. Many people, I would say most Americans that live on a standard diet or the worst version of it, because let's be a little bit fair, when they say SAD diet, a standard American diet, there's what your doctor would tell you to eat, and then there's people that come to keto from that world, but they really weren't eating what the doctor said. It was much worse, right? They were eating, you can have pizza, but they were eating 3/4 of a pie, when their doctor would have said, a slice would have been enough, right? So being a little bit fair there, but you're just addicted to sugar. And if you were addicted to heroin, and I put you into a clinic, you're going to go through symptoms of withdrawal, and you're going to feel like shit. So those are two things that can go on. The third one, and this is something I think lasts a lot longer, and it gets called keto flu in the sense of those two things, and it's not. If you're 50 pounds overweight, and you've been overweight for a long time, how long has some of that fat been on your body? Right? How long have you held that one particular fat cell that you're going to burn today? 10 years? 15 years? How long? 5 years? A year? Maybe 20 years for some of you? What does that mean? Well, one of the reasons they tell you to not eat fat in like feedlot meat, like your store-bought, non-grass-fed beef, and one of the reasons we say to do grass-fed, organic, etc. in the world of keto is about health. It's not about keto itself, it's about health in general. Animals, which you are, store toxins in their fat. When there's excess toxins in the body at the same time fat's being created, it gets wrapped up in that little fatty envelope, and you have toxins in your fat. You start burning that fat, and it's kind of, they did experiments on guys back in the 60s, giving them LSD in the military, and 10 years later, they might burn a fat cell that they stored some LSD in and trip out. Command Sergeant Major of the United States Army Chemical Corps actually had an incident back in the 80s because he was part of an experimental program where he had a little bit of a trip out, okay, because LSD was actually stored up in one of his fat cells. Pop. And he didn't go completely nuts, climb under the tables or whatever, but he had this episode, and eventually they said, yeah, that's probably what it was. Well, if it can do that, then all different types of toxins that you've been consuming over the last decade or two or a half are stored up in your fat. So when you start burning that, especially that first massive amount, instead of burning a pound a week, you start burning 3 pounds of fat a week, 7,500 calories of fat. What's in there? I don't know. It's all the crap you ate, and it floods your system, which is not yet quite ready to deal with it. And I think this can lead to a variety of things. One would be an accumulation of uric acid. This is why some people get gout. The reason I'm even bringing that up, I learned about it because guess who got gout? I didn't get classic gout. Like if this is your big toe, right there, this joint right here. This is in your toe. This is where you usually get gout. You usually get a big lump up here and on the side. I didn't get a big lump, but my whole, if this is my foot and these are my toes, and this is where the foot begins and this is where the toes start. Those are like some long ass monkey toes, wouldn't they? Anyway, all through here, my foot was swollen for about a week. And when I pushed like up under there on that bottom ball of that toe, it hurt. I mean, it hurt like I was being stabbed with a freaking ice pick. And it gave me a new appreciation for what my grandfather used to go through with gout. I never understood how much it actually hurt. Looked it up. Turns out it happens sometimes. What is recommended is to drink lemon juice and just power through. That all your doctors will tell you, oh, it's keto doing it. No, it's your body adapting, readjusting, and if you stick through it, it'll go away. And it did. And the other thing that worked was topical CBD oil applied right to the location. That's those magic with any kind of aches and pains. Really helped me deal with it, and I got through it. But the other thing that happened to me, and still going on occasionally, is getting a zit out of nowhere. And what I mean is, like, usually when you're going to get a zit, you feel like a spot on your body, and it starts to kind of build, and then it builds over a couple days, and then it builds up into that nasty whitehead or whatever, and then eventually it'll pop, and then it goes away, right? And it takes there's a time cycle in there. I'm talking go to bed, and here was one right there. It's almost gone now, right? Go to bed and there's nothing there, right? There's zero there on the bicep. Wake up 8 hours later and there's a full raging whitehead zit. It hurts. Pop it. I know you're not supposed to, whatever. You don't pop yours then. Pop it, put some alcohol on it, sanitize it, and I use a hydrocortisone with some enzyme action that I use for first aid for little things like that. It's actually for dogs because it's better than anything you get for humans. And boom, it's gone, knocked out. But I haven't ever had that in my life. So I'm not getting like a rash. I'm getting like a zit here, and then like a week later, like one on my shoulder, and then like a week later, one on my armpit, and then like a week later, one on my chest. I can't prove this. Again, I don't make claims as fact when I don't have fact, but my best guess, my educated guess, 30 days into this, not having classic Keto Flu at all, I am releasing toxins into my body, and it's causing some things to happen. And I think this idea that we should be like, we should judge keto harshly because we have these side effects, and that means keto caused it, is just very short-sighted. It plays right into mainstream's bullshit. And it would be like saying, well, I was doing heroin, and when I quit, I got the shakes, and I got the sweats, and I felt sick, and I threw up. So giving up heroin is bad. I mean, that's when people try to make like these things are bad, my response is, did you think you could give up a drug and a way of abusing your body for years with no side effects? And if you did, good for you. I think that's awesome, right? And that's great, but it doesn't mean it won't happen to everybody. Now, I do want to say something about the classic keto flu and classic withdrawal symptoms. Even when I don't experience something, when I do something, I research everything I can about it. As a person that creates content for a living, I run a podcast. 200,000 people listen to my podcast. This is a much bigger thing on audio than I do on YouTube because I'm spotty at best on YouTube. I feel like if somebody asks me a question, I should have at least some idea of what the answer is. And when I'm doing something and I'm public about it, people ask. So I've researched the shit out of this keto flu thing. And every time I find, like, if this is happening, take this supplement. Or if this is happening, this is a practice to be on. I'm already doing it, and that might be why it was highly mitigated because I was doing it from the beginning. Again, I work with a chiropractor named Dr. Stephen Lewis. He's out of East Texas, Tyler area. And we ran a full lab panel. And people have asked, well, did you have your A1C? I had, if you can have it done with a blood test or a P test, I had it all done. Like the phlebotomist that did my testing was like, I've never even done this many vials. So I had everything checked. And my numbers were shitty. And that's one of the reasons I'm taking this so seriously. And it also gives me a baseline, and I'll know what I've done after 90 days. And I expect to see significant improvement everywhere. Probably still a long way to go, but massive improvement, which will also be proof that the mainstream is wrong. But the fact that, well, take magnesium. Well, I'm on magnesium. Take potassium. Well, I'm on potassium. Well, if this happens, maybe your B12 levels are low. I'm on B12. Like, just because that blood panel was done, and because I was working with this practitioner from the beginning, and this is why I like Stephen Lewis. People that are like, well, just take magnesium. Well, how much? For how long? And why? Well, I don't know. Because everybody needs it. And magnesium is probably one of the ones you could do that with. And magnesium, to be fair, is actually really difficult to test for. Because if your magnesium level in your blood goes too low, you die really fast. So your blood and your body is really good at keeping magnesium in your blood. It's one of the most difficult things to test for. So your blood level of magnesium can look okay, but you are overall deficient. So that would be an exception. But there's a lot of other things. Why are you taking this? Because everybody says you should? Well, are you deficient in it? That's a big issue. So I think that was really helpful. And his website is called Green Wisdom Health. I'll put a link in the video notes. I'm not saying you have to work with him, but he's the only guy I know that works specifically with supplements and tests for low levels, because this is why I don't like drugs. Well, if you have high cholesterol, then we're going to put you on a statin. So I have a deficiency in statins? Well, no. The human body doesn't make statins. Okay, so then why are you putting me on statins? What's wrong with my body that makes my cholesterol too high? And let's actually make sure we're talking about the right cholesterol way of looking at cholesterol, because cholesterol itself is not really the problem. It's cholesterol plaques, certain forms of cholesterol, certain forms of triglycerides, etc. But even if the problem is there, why is the problem there due to a deficiency in statins? No. Well, then I don't think statins are the way to go unless everything else has failed. Blood pressure medication, your blood pressure is high. So when I give you this particular well, am I deficient in that? Does my body need more of that? No. Then what is my body deficient in, or what am I doing to my body that makes my blood pressure high? Don't tell me it's genetic, or human beings would have died off a long time ago, right? So I like working with practitioners that form a baseline and come at it from, here's the issues, and here's what you either are nutritionally deficient in directly, as in you're low in potassium or you're low in whatever, or here's what you're lacking in a dietary standpoint, like fish oils, omega-3s, etc., that are known to have an effect on this. And then let's retest. So I think that's why I've staved off a lot of keto flu, but I have had these other two things happen. And I just think that in reality, grow up and get over it. You're the one that did this to yourself in many instances. Well, I felt like crap for 2 weeks. Did you get to week 3? No. Well, maybe you would have felt better. And you probably would have. Drink lots of water. Bring some acid to the party. Lemon juice, apple cider vinegar, something I've used quite a bit. I drink 1 cup of coffee a day now, with kind of semi-bulletproof is what I call it. And I drink tea. Earl Grey hot, okay? It's one of the many teas that I drink. A little bit of lemon in there. That helps the body adapt to this new situation. But it'll change your life for the better if you give it a chance. Don't worry about keto flu. You'll get over it. Just research, and that's the thing. Whatever you're having, somebody else has been through it, and somebody else has dealt with it. I will give you one final caution. Person will say, well, I had this symptom, and I used this solution for a week, and then it went away. Correlation does not equal causation. Right? Not always, anyway. And it could be that symptom just lasts a week. It makes me think way back to when I was in 10th grade high school. And my teacher, Ms. Bosang, wrote up on the wall, on the chalkboard, does mayonnaise cure poison ivy? Having been a young man with a family that gets poison ivy like crazy and being immune to it, I'm like, no, because if it did, my dad would be totally rubbing mayonnaise on himself. She says, patient gets poison ivy, stage 1, stage 2, apply mayonnaise, stage 3, 10 days later, poison ivy's gone. 4, conclusion, mayonnaise cures poison ivy. And she said, what's the problem with this? That's 10 days, it's gone anyway. She was teaching a scientific method in a control group. So I do think a lot of things that people say get you through certain keto flu things, it may just be that 2 weeks is about how long it lasts. You can still try those things, they won't hurt anything. But if you work with a practitioner, try to work with somebody that forms baseline analysis, and then retest you to see, like, is what we're doing working, or you're just pissing in the wind. With that, remember, the answer to all your problems and the cause of them is in your bathroom in the mirror. You can go look at it, and the scale that's on the floor can be your friend or your enemy. It's up to you. With that, I'll catch up with you tomorrow.